Coming to paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, Illuminati. The man who rules the world takes on the head of the global elite in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes series adventure. Pre-order your copy of John Haynes Illuminati on Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. One of the big mistakes I see a lot of first-time superhero comic creators make is focusing too much on the powers of their characters. Now, many first-time superhero comic creators love to focus on making their heroes very powerful physically. However, they don't really focus on making their characters strong as related to who they are internally. Now, many first-time superhero comic creators, what they want to do is get your attention by showcasing the superhero's powers, but they don't really understand that the story is really told not with the superhero's strengths, but it's actually told with that character's weaknesses. And one of the greatest weaknesses a character can have as related to telling a compelling story is all of the flaws they have as a person, because it's these human flaws that are the elements that really go out and drive a conflict for a character story and show that the character as a hero has to not only overcome an enemy, but also has to overcome issues within themselves. And this is one of the catalysts that can drive a story in a superhero adventure. Unfortunately, many first-time independent comic creators really don't focus on a character's internal flaws. No, they are so hyped up and caught up in their emotions about a character's powers that they don't really focus on the thing that will be a main catalyst for driving the story next to the antagonist going out here and creating the conflict that the hero has to overcome. Because with superhero stories, there are two elements driving the story. One is the challenge from the bad guy, and the other is the internal struggle that the hero has as related to the personal issues that they are struggling with in their own lives. So these are two things that drive the conflict of a good superhero story. Unfortunately, many first-time creators, they get so caught up in showcasing this character's powers that they don't see that the real story is the character looking to take their own power by overcoming whatever issue they are struggling with in their personal lives. And it's these character flaws that are the thing that basically create what I call the rough edges and texture, which are a part of the layers of the character. And it's these rough edges and texture that are the thing that allow the character to have those rough edges, that allow the character to connect with the reader and allow the reader to have something to hold on to say that this character is somebody they identify with, because this character is going through the struggles that that a person who is reading the story can understand, because they can say this is their life, because this character is dealing with the struggles that they're dealing with. And it's all of these internal issues that a character has that really make the audience care about the story, to want to read that story all the way to the end, because it's these internal issues that the character has that create all of the depth and the layers, again, that allow the reader to connect with this character and see them as a full person and not just an image of a character. So a lot of times when I'm reading a lot of books, especially by first-time and new comic creators in the superhero genre, this is the biggest mistake that they make. They want to give you this showcase of a character's power, but you don't really need to give me a showcase of a character's power in that first issue. Yes, you may want to introduce this hero, but show me what they are trying to overcome in their personal lives. I mean, whenever I'm writing a character, whether they be a superhero or a regular person, what I want to focus on mainly is that character's internal struggles, because it's those internal struggles that are going to drive the conflict, and it's the character flaws that they have that are going to be a major part of them trying to overcome in the face of adversity. I mean, for example, on the Isis character, one of the flaws that she has is that even though she's a goddess, she doesn't believe that she's perfect, and because she struggles with this feeling of inadequacy, it is one of those things that makes her not be able to feel like she can do everything in a perfect way. So that's one of the things she struggles with internally, and she also struggles with other issues as related to her personal life, like the tragedy where her husband wound up dying at the hands of the Ku Klux Klan. And she also struggles with other issues as related to her own feelings about her own beauty. So there's a whole lot of flaws there that allow me to work with for the character and give her something to overcome in each story. Just like with the Esteem character, she struggles with character issues as related to being this former demon, and she also struggles with these father issues, and she struggles with other character flaws, like being a bit in the beginning, she was a very arrogant character, but then became a bit more humbled, and that's what made that character one interesting. And with the John Haynes character, he was a character who was a bit of an introvert and a guy who stayed to himself and stayed away from people. And I put him in an environment where he had to deal with people, and that made for a great conflict. And same thing with the Matilda Crowley character. She was an introvert who didn't know how to talk, and in the Spellbound novel, she had to find her voice. And with the Lilith Graves character, she was an atheist who had contempt for religious people, but then had to enter the world of vampires and found out how important the church actually is. So I oftentimes try to create characters who have these internal conflicts, and the internal conflicts, these are the things inside them that are an accelerant to the external conflict of dealing with whatever adversary they have to deal with, and the internal conflicts inside of each of the characters as they deal with these situations, whether they be social or personal. These are the things that give these characters flaws, and again, these flaws are the thing that make the reader look at these characters and say, hey, that's a person like me. That's a person dealing with struggles like me. That's a person dealing with issues like me. And this person is a person who I'm out here, is me. Or in other cases, people will say, oh, this is a person just like somebody I know on my block or in my neighborhood or in my town. I know somebody like this, and I'm friends with somebody like this, and these flaws allow us to see these characters not just as fictional beings, but we start to connect with them as friends, and you want to spend time with friends, and that's a major part of it. And again, when you're a comic creator, you want people to see your characters as friends, because if people see them as friends, they're going to want to pick up their adventures, and they're going to want to anticipate picking up the next adventure because they want to spend time with their friends, and you want your readers to feel like they are enjoying time with friends. And friends are not perfect people, just like you and I. They are flawed people, and the more flaws you give a person, the more people can connect with that person. But it doesn't mean you have to turn the character into a basket case. It's just stuff people struggle with every day. And the stuff that people struggle with every day makes for really great storytelling that can resonate for all time. And that's what's going to make your story one that people can read this year and even 10 to 20 years later, because I've written books that are over a decade and old, and the first Isis is 2 decades old, and all it takes for that book to resonate is for you to write a flawed character And flawed characters are absolutely perfect for storytelling because they allow us to see people like us and allow us to have stories told about people. And stories told about people are the kind that people want to go out here and buy. So a lot of what I see for a lot of first-time comic creators, and I've done this myself. Again, I've made this mistake myself years ago, and I started to realize, hey, you don't need to focus so heavy on the powers. Focus on the person, because it's the person that people want to spend time with, and you want people to spend time with someone not because of how great they are, but because they are someone who is aspiring to be great just like you. Now, if you want to try out my first full comic, John Haynes at Death's Door, you can find that comic on Lulu.com in paperback, and you can pick it up for the same price it was on the 2022 Kickstarter by clicking the link in the description box. And if you want to pick up my first digital comic, Esteem No Good Deed, you can find that comic on Kindle for 99 cents on Amazon.com. And if you want a paper copy, you can pick up Esteem No Good Deed in the back of the paperback Esteem series book, Esteem Blast from the Past. And if you want to pick up many of the other books featuring the characters and see all of their flaws, you can pick up the books in the Isis series, the Esteem series, the John Haynes series, and the books of the Spinsterella trilogy, or my vampire novel Eternal Night, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find these books at other online booksellers like Smashwords, the iBookstore, Google Play, and Barnes & Noble. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available on Lulu. John Haynes at Death's Door. The man who rules the world takes on the Greek god of death in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes comic book. Get your copy of the first John Haynes comic at Lulu.com today. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, All About the Goddess. The Goddess Next Door bears all in the art studio to catch a campus stalker in this action-packed Isis series mystery. Get your copy of Isis, All About the Goddess in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.